Hi, my name's Ray Shefska, and I sold cars for 43 years. And there's 5 things that car dealers don't want you to know.
All right, Pops, they are. We're going to run through each of them in depth. But first, the OTD price. That is the number one thing a car dealer doesn't want you to know.
Yes.
Looking at my notes here. Oh, asking for the buy rate, Dad. We're going to talk about that. Number 3, cash offers for your trade-in. Sorry, my handwriting's bad. Number 4, when you have a pre-approval for your financing. And number 5, knowing the days that the vehicle has been on the dealer's lot. Let's start at the top, Dad. The number one thing a car dealer doesn't want you to know is what's the out-the-door price. Can you explain what that means?
The out-the-door price on an automobile is the agreed-upon selling price of that vehicle, including all dealer-installed accessories that you've agreed to, all taxes and fees. The out-the-door price is the bottom line price of the vehicle, as if you were actually going to write a check for it. Dealerships don't want you to ask about that. Dealerships want you to talk about, well, what's your monthly payment?
Yeah, when you talk about monthly payment, there are all sorts of variables that can be changed. When you talk about the out-the-door price, it is the same number at every dealership, no matter where you go. Now, it is important to understand that your taxes are not something that you can negotiate. All the other stuff, all the taxed fees, for example, obviously like registration and things like that are paid for to the state or local government, those you can't negotiate as well. But all of the taxed fees, selling price of the vehicle, dealer add-ons, that's all negotiable and will show up in an itemized out-the-door price. When you ask for that, all the variables are on display on the table. You can negotiate. You can talk about them intelligently. That's why when you ask a salesperson for the out-the-door price, rather than what's your monthly budget or what's your monthly payment goal, you've taken control of the situation. And quite frankly, dealers should love this because it makes things more quick and easy. That being said, a lot of times salespeople don't love it because you get rid of profit centers, when you can hide things in payments and things like that.
Perhaps the salesperson doesn't love it because, well, their sales manager doesn't love it. Their sales manager is going to beat them about the head and shoulders for, get them back on payments. Get them on payments.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Number 2, buy rate, Pops. Let's explain what the buy rate is and why, in this case, a finance manager at the dealership is not super happy when a customer drops that line.
When you finance through an automobile dealership, when you give them your credit application and they submit the credit application to the banks and other lending institutions for you, that's known as indirect lending. Okay, so the one that is actually, you're getting approved for the loan, but the dealership is the one that's instigating the whole thing. So the lending institutions will give them what's known as a buy rate, how much they're going to charge the dealership as an APR for that loan. The dealership is then free to mark that up. Okay, the buy rate can be marked up to what is known as the sell rate. So if they get an approval of 5.49%, most dealerships will mark up the buy rate by 2 percentage points, and they will offer you the APR at 7.49%. The reason dealerships do that is they participate in that extra percentage that you're being charged. So the extra interest, the dealership's going to collect on part of that.
Now, to be entirely fair, can a dealership make money doing indirect lending? Yeah, of course. They're offering the service. Can you still ask for what the buy rate is? Absolutely. Yes. And if the sales manager or the finance manager or the salesperson doesn't want to share that to you, make it clear to them. I want transparency. I want to understand what I got approved for versus what you're selling me the money. It is a perfectly fine question to ask. And if you can obviously finance it buy rate, do it. This ties in with the 4th one that we said we were going to do, but we're going to move it into right now. Salespeople, sales managers, dealers in general don't love when you have a pre-approval, because that's leverage in this type of conversation. When you have a pre-approval for financing from an outside financial institution, you have leverage in that buy rate conversation. Maybe the dealer doesn't want to show you the buy rate, Pops, but if you let them know, well, I'm actually pre-approved at 5.49%, they'll probably match it, because at a minimum, they'll get some sort of reserve or flat for just having made the loan and matching your rate. And, they probably lost a couple $1,000 or $1,000 from the 2 percentage points they couldn't hold, but at least they'll take it. So, when you walk in and you say, I've got a pre-approval at a certain rate, that commands a lot of leverage.
And one of the reasons the finance manager will usually either meet or beat whatever your approval is, even though they're not going to get a big payout from the bank, their pay plan, the way they are compensated, is based on penetration levels. And so the dealership might have that 80% of your customers have to finance, and you get the finance manager gets a bonus or extra percentage for if he hits that level. If he falls below the 80%, then his pay is a little less than what it would be. So for them to hit their pay grades, they need to have those penetration levels. So they'll typically work with you to make sure that they can still finance the deal, even though they're not going to earn for the dealership as much money as they would have if you hadn't had a pre approval.
One other tidbit on pre-approvals, dealers also like doing the financing in-house because they're funding, they know how they're going to get funded, from the loan versus when it's outside and you have the pre-approval from a credit union, for example. They might ask some questions like how long does it take to actually get funded from this institution? And those things can, cause some challenges in a car deal. Again, walk in with it because it gives you leverage. Don't go buy a car without a pre-approval if you plan on financing it. Number 4, Dad, we said it was number 3, but it's number 4. Now, cash offers for a trade-in. This is more accessible than ever before. Do not just go to Kelley Blue Book and say, hey, dealer, here's the Kelley Blue Book number, or just go to the dealer and say, hey, value my trade-in. Go to caredge.com/sell. It takes 60 seconds. Get real cash offers. This is easier than ever before and gives you all the leverage you need to get a fair value when you trade in a vehicle.
If I'm not mistaken, Zach, that doesn't cost you anything to do that.
Yeah, of course.
So at least this way you can usually get 2, 3, maybe 4 cash offers from your vehicle from dealer groups within your market area that would be interested in your vehicle. So that gives you a better understanding as to what the actual market value is of your trade-in. To just use book values, that's not a legitimate way to come up with what the actual market value for your trade is. And the way you do that is to get actual cash offers as to what somebody would write you a check for. That's an actual cash offer. And that you can use when you're at the dealership negotiating the value for your trade.
Salesperson, sales manager, used car manager aren't going to love that you have that, but you know what? They should. It just makes everything more efficient, easier. You get a fair price for your trade in. You can move on to the next thing, which would be, Dad, the 5th thing that salesperson, the dealer, yada, 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 don't want you to know. Days on lot. The longer a car has been sitting, the more motivated they are to discount. Doesn't mean the first pencil, which is the first time they hand you a worksheet or a price quote for that vehicle, is going to reflect the fact that that vehicle's been sitting there for 218 days. But if you know what it has, then you can negotiate hard on that vehicle. Vehicles that have been sitting longer tend to be more negotiable because it's just a cost center for the dealership and they need to move on from it. And if I'm not mistaken, Dad, that is also free. Back on the CarEdge car search, you can see every vehicle, how long it's been advertised by that dealer for sale.
And those floor plan interest rates, which are higher than they've been for the last 5, 6, 10 years. Typically most cars are costing a dealership based on the finance amount that they have to pay, somewhere between $12 and $15 a day. Well, if a car's been there 100 days, figure it out. That's $1,500. That's a lot of money. That eats into their profit. That gives you some leverage to suggest to them, hey, it could sit here another day, or you can finally get it off your books and you can get some cash to go, I don't know, replace that car with a newer one. What do you want to do?